Spring has always been, we've always made a one single menu. Actually, that's not true. The first 2 weeks of the first spring in 2006, I had 4 tables of 4. And I made a different menu for each table. And then this nice girl that lived upstairs who came downstairs and said, I'd like to be a waitress. I once worked at a Capri. I said, yeah, that sounds like perfect. Said, why don't you just serve everybody the same thing at the same time? Save a lot of time. And that's what happened. So the restaurant was booked up very quickly. It was very small. And so maybe 3 or 4 weeks into the experience, I started making one meal for everyone at 8:30. 16 people. If it was 4 tables of 3, it would be 12 people. We didn't do anything. We didn't turn tables. I was actually, for maybe the first year, it was just me and the waitress in the restaurant. For the first 3 weeks, it was me by myself. And I wonder how that happened. I wonder why people actually came back, actually. Oh, Alex. This is Alexandre Drouard. This is also one of the reasons. This is part of the reason why Restaurant Spring has had so much success also. But it started out as just me thinking I'll create the smallest restaurant that I can. I didn't really, the restaurant that I could run, which happened to be a very small one because I didn't have that much experience. And then little by little it got bigger. And then first it was a waitress, then it was a second cook with me, who was a woman who came on the 3rd of May 2007 for dinner. And then the next day, the 4th of May, she said, I think you need some help. And I thought, oh, good, you're a shrink. That's perfect. No, I'm a cook. And now we're married and have children. So, and then it was a sommelier who worked with me for a year, a French woman named Audrey Jarry, who's since opened Au Passage and Bones, and I think that's it. But somebody who's very involved. And then one day we came upon a skateboard shop in the first arrondissement on the Rue Bayeux, which at the time had bums living in the little back doorways in front of the restaurant. And that's why there's a doorbell on the restaurant today. It's really had nothing. People think it's chic, but it's just to keep the bums out in the beginning. And then I looked at these 2 girls. I wasn't yet involved with one of them. And I said, let's open a bigger restaurant. And they said, yeah, okay. And I paid the rent for 1 month, and I thought, geez, this is a lot. This is 10 times the rent. The rent at the other restaurant was 698 euros a month, which is a pretty good deal, although it was very, very small. But it was easy to manage. So for a budding entrepreneur, it was very human-sized. I used to close down for weeks at a time and go to Japan or go to the States or sleep all day or whatever. All the things that I wish I could do now, but you can't stop the machine. Not with 17 people working. And then we opened this bigger restaurant, and it requires it requires now 17 people. I'd say 14 of those are professionals, and 3 of them are, apprentices learning and stuff. I went from being the only cook in the restaurant to now, 7 years later, the École Ferrandi, which is the local cooking school, just sent us the youngest apprentice in France. So she began her apprenticeship on Tuesday. She was 14 years old. She's skipping. So I thought, I didn't ask initially, but I said, why did you send this person to our restaurant? They can go anywhere they want. She just signed the contract on Thursday, the day of her 15th birthday. And so she'll be with us for 3 years, which is now a new type of responsibility. Because now I have to make sure that this person becomes a French cook. And doesn't look back and say, pardon me, shit, I should have gone to high school. But that's a little bit of... And now what we do at Spring is we make a menu that changes depending on availability of products. which is mostly Alex's department, and some kind of reflection on French cooking, history of French cooking, traditions, and then a big dose of hunger. So you think, what would I like to eat for dinner? And that's what we tried to make. Yeah, I think that maybe puts us at today.
So hello, my name is Alexandre, I'm from Paris. I'm sorry for the delay and also for my English with a French accent. So for me, terroirs means I mean it's a territory which includes geography, weather, and also local. For the agriculture, local varieties, a kind of vegetable, animals, and also fishing. So we are very lucky in France to have a very great diversity of terroir, and also terroir means culture, because the way you eat influence a lot your way of thinking, your way of being. So it includes the music, it includes a lot of things. And so for me, terroir in 2013, that's your question. I mean, it still exists, it's the same definition, but we live in a world that changed a lot, and also the way of living, the way of living changed, but there is still a lot of terroir in France. Even if some of them are very threatened. A lot of people do things to keep local varieties, to keep the culture of this terroir. I was a student with Samuel, who is a friend, also as my partner. We were in a business school, but the way that the study in the business school was not very interesting, and we also. On se posait beaucoup de questions.
What do you want to say?
On se posait beaucoup de questions sur notre avenir.
Asked a lot of questions.
We asked a lot of questions about our future, and we didn't want to do some marketing and some finance. So so that's why I was interesting. I heard a lot about slow food and the work that they do. And I was very interested by that, and the fact that in Paris, because I'm from Paris, we cannot find easily a lot of varieties of vegetable, a lot of products that reflects the variety of terroir that we have in France, because agriculture changed a lot, and it's more industrial than artisanal. So I started to be a member of Slow Food and to meet a lot of producers during some project that it's called Sentinel. The Sentinel Slow Food, as you will explain after, but it's a project that save local varieties that are very threatened in France, but also all around the world. So when we met the producer, we were very interested and surprised to that some producer, those guys do a very good job, very good work, but cannot find a way to distribute their product, because as I said, now the way of thinking in agriculture school, you make a volume, you make a lot of product, you've got a supermarket that buys the product, but it's another way of thinking, and this kind of producer make not a lot of volume, but very good quality, and the price are more expensive than the other one. Who do, for instance, I mean, for pig, I met a lot of producers that raise a local pig. For instance, the black pig in the Gers, the pig live, for instance, 15 months, compared to industrial pigs that live 6 months. And in 6 months, they are heavier, plus lourd, heavier than the other one. For instance, 200 kilograms, 200 kilo. Then in 15 months, they've got 100 kilos. So it's also more expensive because the food is different. They don't buy OGM, for instance. So the price is different, so they cannot sell easily their product. So first of all, with Samuel, we were very surprised to discover this kind of varieties that we didn't know in Paris. And so it was during the end of my school, and we were not very happy of our knowledge in the school. So that's why we decided to create something to help this guy and to propose other way of consume in Paris for the food. So we didn't have a lot of money, so we cannot have a store because the price it's crazy in Paris. And so we met some guys like Daniel that were very nice with us and very happy to see different products that they can have in Rungis. Even if that in Rungis is a lot of quality, but it's now it's more like a great business. So that's it. Sorry.
And when did you make how did you make the decision to start selling to regular people and not just to?
It was our goal at the beginning. But the problem is that when we started, it was very difficult to have the money for a store, but also to propose this kind of product to people that are that use to buy all the same tomatoes. I mean the calibre,
the same size.
Calibre, the size. That also a difference between the industrial and artisanal products. You don't have the same size. It depends of the season. Sometimes you have, sometimes you don't have. For instance, for the fish, we work with very little boat that use a line or a little fillet or a casier for the homard and crabs. But when the weather is not good, you cannot go fishing. So, for instance, when you when you want something with us, it's very complicated to organize a menu, and but a lot of restaurants are disappointed, and also people, because when you go to a supermarket or market, you have everything all around the year, and you can buy strawberry, tomatoes, all kind of fish. There is always something for you. And if you come maybe in our store, when the weather is not good, we close the so it's not good for business, but it's we can manage like this. So it was very new for us to, and also for the fish, for the chief, that sometimes they order and we don't have, and it's always a new. An excuse in the new.
A new excuse.
A new excuse. Sometimes the weather, sometimes we don't have. Sometimes it's too hot. There is, but that's it. When you go there, because during 5 years, and we still do that. We go to meet the producer to understand his way of life. To see if the guy is very concerned about his job, and also to see, because it's beautiful to see all the diversity of the nature, and also the way that they work. It's very interesting and it's beautiful. So we understand when we go there, you can understand that it's not very easy to get all the same size, to get this kind of thing. So, but in Paris we are very lucky to get some chefs like Daniel and other restaurants that understand this point. And but there is few. It's I mean, everybody should be like this. Should understand that the nature cannot propose every day the same product, and it's but it's that's the work of slow food.
In a few words, it's a movement that was born in the 80s in Italy and founded by an Italian journalist and gourmet called Carlo Petrini. He's still the president of Slow Food. And to define slow food maybe in one sentence, it would be to say that it's the combination of pleasure and responsibility. Pleasure in the sense that we all appreciate the food we eat and we take pleasure in it, but also we have a responsibility in a way that what we buy, what we decide to eat, has impacts on the environment, has impact on the price the producers are paid. So the idea is that we have, in the choices we make, we have a certain responsibility. So in short, slow food is about this. And one of the examples of the projects we run throughout the world in France, but in other countries, is the Sentinelle. I think in English they say Presidia products. Is we try to identify, because slow food is a lot about local, local divisions, local groups of slow food people, and they try to identify products that are in danger of disappearing because, for instance, there's this specific cow in Brittany who has extraordinary milk, but it doesn't produce as much milk per day as the Primolstein, which is the most cow used in dairy. But the milk is extraordinary. It has a taste that is really beautiful. It has a color that is almost yellow because there's so much beta carotene. But it was slowly abandoned because it didn't produce enough milk. And so the local slow food people just told the international center, hey, we have this cow that might disappear. So that's the way it works. That's one of the projects, and then there are also projects around sustainable fishing and land grabbing in Africa and various. Anything that touches food, and once you start pulling the threads, food has impact on so many fields. It's about economics, it's about politics, it's about taste, it's about. It's part of our everyday. So yeah, a lot of impact.
And how does that differ from the way we look at it in other countries? Like you spent time in the United States. You wrote for The Atlantic about Iowa farmers, and we talk about the concept of terroir as sometimes a very French thing, but certainly that idea exists elsewhere. What did you find when you visited those farmers and others in the U.S.?
It does exist. It's probably less intellectualized and less romanticized as it is in France. The idea of terroir exists, and it exists even in Africa. It's this alliance of the soil and the weather and the species and also the knowledge of the people. Because Iowa is a bit special because it's not really famous for small-scale organic farmers. It's more famous for intensive corn and soy farmers. But I had the luck to meet small-scale producers who were really paying a lot of attention to what they were doing and the way they were feeding their cows, or it was also lamb producers, and there were chefs as well who were into which is harder actually in Iowa when you really want to cook seasonal. In the middle of the winter, there's not much going on in the fields. But yeah, you find it everywhere, except in France, it's become a selling concept in a way.
I don't find it worrying. I actually think that, and I don't think it's a new phenomena. I think this exists always. There's places that serve good food and places that serve bad food. Good food can also be vacuum packed and frozen and all this, and it's the customer who will decide eventually. Personally, in the way spring functions, it's not from a position of either. It all begins with a question of gourmandise. I want to eat the most delicious thing I can. We want to make the most delicious thing we can. We're very lucky that in some way that the most delicious stuff comes from real people who make real products and all the rest. But if the strawberries, the best tasting strawberries in the galaxy came from Mars and it cost, hundreds of kilos of uranium to move them by nuclear power from wherever they come from to the table, I would probably propose that to my customers. But I sleep better at night because the most delicious things, and the more we eat, the more I eat, the more we taste, come from not only from real places but also from real people. So I think the question of whether or not restaurants should be labeled restaurant, not labeled restaurants if they're not making fresh food. I feel like in some way it's up to the customer will decide and the customer will know. In France, things are highly regulated also, which is good because it protects the small farmers and stuff. But I sort of feel like it should, as an American, in some ways, maybe it's my Americanism creeps out in certain moments, but let the market decide in some ways. People aren't duped, and people, they know what they want.
I don't know.
I'm not so sure.
No. Well, I mean, I agree that it's not a question of a label, but I mean, the premise is that, and the fact that it's important that people do not make the difference between, for instance, a very good restaurant and bad food. I think when they eat some meat or some cheese, they don't see the difference, and that's the real problem, because they don't have the education of taste and to recognize very good products and bad food. So it starts at the school. I mean, if young people have great good food at school, I mean, they will be able to. I mean, that's like knowledge. It's knowledge. You can do the difference if you are. If you know the taste of the good cheese, of the good meat, and good fish. I mean, that's the main problem.
And for me, I think the consumer has the right to know it's been served, and then to make a decision. I agree. It's like the recent scandal about the horse lasagna. For me, it's more a scandal that we didn't know what was in there than actually I'm French, so we don't mind eating horse. So for me, it's the scandal was more about the information was wrong. But I think we all have the right, and I agree with you about the education part, Alex, but I think we also have the right to know and then make a decision. Do I want to pay the same price? Do I want to pay, say, 20 euros for a dish that has just been reheated in the microwave? Or do I want to invest these 20 euros in a dish that has been made in the restaurant?
Yes, but about the horses scandal, I mean, it's funny because people always want to buy food, but very cheap food. I mean, the message is the food is always cheap and should be cheap, but when you buy a car, it's not very expensive. There is no problem to get money for the car, for the phone, but for the food, it's a real problem. So that people want to eat everyday meat. I mean, that's it's poetry. I mean, at the end they get some horses, so that's why. No.
There's nothing inherently wrong with. That's why I say there's nothing inherently wrong with vacuum packing things or freezing things. It's all a question of where it comes from and what the other options are. But it's true that probably the biggest, and it's even, I think also the question of whether it should be something that's labeled in restaurants is small, because most of the food in the world is not consumed in restaurants. It's consumed at the supermarket. So it really needs to start with the way in which people shop for food. You know, if you go to the Monoprix, you expect there to be chicken backs and chicken wings and chicken legs, which is something that is interesting because it doesn't actually have to be that way. The fact that there's all this meat sitting on the counter waiting for you is something that we've all become very used to, but isn't necessarily. I mean, you can change the model so that you can do away with a lot of that waste. And I sometimes wonder if with new technology and new ways of getting food to purchasing things with your iPhone or whatever, and producers like Alex connect us with producers that Alex knows, that you could probably begin to pay less for quality products if you didn't expect them to be ready for you whenever you wanted. So on Thursday, is it so strange to think that you can't plan ahead for your perfectly nice, beautiful chicken for Thursday? It seems strange. We go to the grocery store, we think, we'll just buy it on Thursday morning. But that meat has been sitting there waiting for you, which is not its optimal condition. So you could pass an order through Alex and and have it waiting for you. But it really has to do a lot with what people expect. They expect not to pay a lot of money for food, and they expect to have it whenever they want, which is not something, it wasn't always like that. Now it's so deeply ingrained. But it's interesting because in Paris there weren't, people say, what's it like to have a restaurant? Well, even the idea of a restaurant, the restaurants began in France. There was a time in the world where there were no restaurants, where you couldn't go out and sit down and order things in a restaurant. The whole concept of a restaurant is something that was invented in the same way that the way in which we purchase food at a supermarket was invented. And there could be a world in which that type of distribution no longer exists in order to privilege a higher quality, which in turn will mean better health and all sorts of other different, because Pascale knows very well that these things are related to politics, to health, to medicine. So as a restaurateur, I say no labels and let the people decide. At the same time, behind the curtain, I imagine a world in which there aren't shelves of meat waiting for you. In fact, when I go back to the States, I'm quite shocked when you go to some place like Whole Foods and you see that they propose 3 or 4 or 5 different varieties of quality of meat. It doesn't make any sense. Somebody should make a choice about whether or not you should be able to purchase crappy food. And it's probably more of a public health issue than it is a question of economics. But in Paris, we're very privileged for many reasons. I mean, we have excellent product. We have the history of restaurants that began here, a culture of restaurants that's still very much alive, whether it's people coming from out of town to partake in it, or people here that really continue the tradition. And also, people say, why don't you open a restaurant in Chicago? And I think, because he doesn't deliver to Chicago. It's true. Because the quality of the food is so high that it changes the way in which cooks interact with the product and with the customer in the end. And it's created a style of cooking in Paris that's become, in some ways very, very particular, because you don't need to do a lot to the product in order for it to taste delicious. That brings up other questions about why we go to a restaurant if we could do that at home and stuff. Don't sell your food to but there are other reasons. The same reason why you watch videos at home and you go to the movie theater. It's not the same process. It's exactly the same content, but it's not the same process. the process that we use at Spring, and I think a lot of other chefs say, they propose products, and then we look back at the tradition and think about what is excellent about those products and what the tradition, the traditional ways of cooking things bring out in that product. And usually it's just magnified by the fact that the quality of the fish is better. So for instance, I went to visit the trout guys. Yeah, at
La Banca.
Yeah, Banca.
Basque Country.
In the Basque Country, there's a beautiful place where they have farmed fish, and these very big, beautiful trout that are, I don't know, they must be 5 or 6 years old already. And it's not organic. I think it's not bio. It's not certified anything. It's just high quality. They've diverted part of the river, and they don't put so many fish into the pool at the same time. They're very healthy looking and happy. I don't know if fish can be happy. I think they're happy. And the person who makes them, he showed us, in addition to being very, very nice, but he showed us this thing. He hadn't left the place, I think, in something like 30 years. I mean, literally hadn't left the actual grounds of the place because he was worried because it's so fragile. If the water isn't fast enough, the fish will die. And he's got a button in his house. Do you see the button? That's crazy. It's like an alarm. So if the water, they have.
C'est ça.
Yeah, if the water.
S'il y a une crue ou si les feuilles coincent en fait.
Yeah, if there's too much water, then the fish gets stuck in certain places, and he has to rescue the whole thing, and he doesn't ever want to leave. In some ways, and I saw that, and I was like, the only reason why I thought that was interesting was that the fish was actually very, very delicious. Otherwise, it's just a crazy guy with his fish. But the fish is delicious. You can eat it raw. You can eat it cooked. So we get. It's very simple. They propose stuff that. I have a chef that works in the restaurant. He says the rouget in your restaurant. And he's worked in great restaurants. He says the rouget in your restaurant, Damien.
Yeah.
He's a little crazy, but he says the rouget in your restaurant, they come in the morning with a pistol on their side and little sheriff badges on each fish. I mean, they're beautiful. And so there is also this notion of when you see fish in the water, they're very beautiful, and there's a reason why you want to eat them, and you try to bring as much of that life from the place to the plate as possible, because people. I know it sounds very hippie-ish or something like, but they feel that energy, and it also inspires us to, you see a big beautiful fish in the morning and we can think of 100 things to do with it, and you see a shitty fish and all you can think of is you can't do anything with it. You might have, and today we're lucky that the quality is very, he says the size is very irregular, and we get chickens that are big, we get chickens that are small. The quality is always very high. So our problem is much different. One of the problems we have is finding cooks that are capable of knowing what to do with a bigger artichoke when the artichokes are big one day and small another day. Because they're both delicious, but they need to be handled differently. And that also, economic, that creates all sorts of other problems. The size of the restaurant needs to be kept to a certain size. Your recipes will change, so on one day you might have rouget with artichokes that are this big, and another day you'll have big artichokes, but because they're big you need to make them into a puree or something like that because they've got fibers in it. They're delicious, but they need to be handled differently. That requires lot more reflection and manipulation. But when you have excellent products, it's very simple. So the trout is excellent. Even the onions, the très bon,
Yes.
they're delicious. So they're sweet. First we taste them raw.
Mais très bon, c'est...
They're très bon. They're called the très bon onions, and they are très bon. It's clever marketing.
C'est le nom de la ville.
Yeah, it's the name of a place. Who wouldn't want to live in Très Bon? No. So a week ago we were in September still, but we're technically still in the summer, except it feels a lot like the fall. So one of the things we do is we divided up and this is something I've never actually said out loud, even to some of my cooks. But I divide the seasons up into 24 different seasons. There are really not 4 seasons, but 24 different seasons, and they are not fixed by date. They're fixed by what's happening outside, and so this is one of the strongest moments in the year. But to answer the question is, there's a point at which you have some of the same products, but the season has changed, and so in order to make the link between the summer tomato and the cool fall that's approaching, we smoked the tomato. That was the reflection. And then there's a question of what things taste nice with smokiness, and fish is classic. I mean, I didn't invent smoking fish. I wish I had. But so we actually burn the mackerel in some way, and underside stays very fresh and very almost raw. So there's several different modes of thinking that are going on at the same time. And then around that we poured, I think, a kind of a vinaigrette made from tomato water, which is also because this time of year you have tomatoes that are less, they start to get mealy again, but they're still good. They still have taste, but they're mealy. So we select out of the case, we take the ones that are perfect, and we smoke them whole, and anything that's mealy we mix into water. So it's a way of accommodating. It's at once thinking about what we want to eat, and at once how you can best accommodate the product. I hope that answers your question.
You have the equivalent of the CSAs. They're called AMAP in French. There's the system of the beehive. It's called La Ruche qui dit oui.
Exactly.
They are like groups of buyers, and they identify producers who are going to come and deliver what you order online every other week. And it's true that in markets in France, you have about 70% of people who are intermediates. They usually go to Rungis and they sell.
À Paris, il y a d'avoir 3 producteurs.
Right. So mostly, but you can actually spot on the markets. You have 2 organic markets, one in Batignolles on Saturdays and one in Raspail on Sundays, and you can spot the ones that are actual producers. But yeah, on Raspail, I think there are 2. There are 2 producers.
Ah oui, mais c'est ultra cher.
Oui.
You also have to be careful not to disregard some of the things that happen at Rungis. Rungis is not the enemy. In fact, a lot of the products that they have pass through Rungis. Rungis is a platform in which anything and everything is available. So you have very excellent things and you have very crappy things at the same time. So you don't want to fall into one of the great things about France is that it's not always so extreme on either side. And there's a gray area that's much more interesting. There are excellent things that come from Rungis, and there are excellent people that go and pick real food from Rungis and are intermediaries who bring that to market. Afterwards, it's a little less fun, yeah, maybe. There's that guy I used to go to the Place de Fête. In the beginning, I used to go to the market with my scooter and put the stuff in it, and I would literally select 16 potatoes and this. But I realized actually that I wasn't necessarily buying the best stuff, even though I was at the outdoor market, the Place des Fêtes, and that there was lots of different things going on. And then there would be like a guy who was selling all the same tomatoes, and then in the back he had like 4 little barquettes of framboises that were from his own garden, and those were the ones you would take. So it's probably getting to know the people that are selling you the product. But at the Avenue President Wilson, there are excellent, there's Thibault, which is also, and that Marché Aligre is also very good.
We all know who Thibault is.
Yeah, Thibault, I think the world, they know about him in Japan. But it's always good when people can create new niches for excellent products. It's a complicated, Paris is a city that changes very slowly on lots of levels. So there are people that are very courageous to go out and start businesses like that, I think. But hold on.
Yes, it's great, but we have a lot of things to propose in France, and I mean, sometimes it's a shame that it's always the same, that you propose some hamburger, fish and chips. I mean, there is a lot of things to do, like just good sandwich, good French sandwich. I mean, where can you find a great jambon beurre in Paris? Not so expensive. And also the second fact that, I mean, street food means also with cheap food. When sometimes it's very expensive in this place. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but
These places aren't cheap.
No, they can't.
No.
They can't be cheap. Yeah.
They cannot be cheap. But that's why, I mean, I don't think that it's good. But it's very good food. But I mean, there is a lot of things to do that can start. You don't want to open a.
I can tell you exactly. If you want to know if I want to open a street food place, which is no, absolutely not. For many reasons, but mostly because I learned to cook from Paul Bocuse.
Yeah.
We wait for people. We spend all day preparing for people to come to dinner. We polish the bottoms of the tables. We put the little triangle on the end of the toilet paper roll, and we make sure that the food is fresh and delicious. And there's this notion of waiting for somebody to come by. That means that somewhere either it has to be very, very expensive, or you have to. Yeah, it's a complicated a complicated thing when I think of, and also in Paris the tradition is not to eat on the street. In fact, it's almost there's crepes that people eat on the street.
It was a tradition.
Yeah, it was a tradition. Yeah.
That was a
Qu'est-ce
tradition.
qu'on mangeait avant, justement?
Mais c'était pas les mêmes choses.
Mais
C'était
c'était quoi, justement?
tribes or
Tribes.
there was a tradition
frites.
of street food in France, but it was more like the 1800s more, and it was bouillon. It was supposed to restore the health, and there was also a lot of things around the tribes and how to say offals. And French fries.
Yeah.
French fries. I think the way French people eat has changed, as in most developed countries. I think one indicator as well is not necessarily about what we eat, but the way we eat it. And for instance, the meal taken together is something very ingrained in the culture, in the tradition, and it's still resisting. But I read an article, it was maybe a year or two ago, and it's declining. And it's still resisting, and it is true that food is something very important in our culture. My American friends are always amazed how we have the ability to talk about food even when the meal is not finished yet. So it is something important, but I think there's also the matter of education and taking the time to educate the children about taste, to take the time to eat together. There was also a study done in the States, I think, about how they studied groups of kids and how often they would have a common meal with their family, and how it was correlated to the risk they had to become addicted to drugs, alcohol, or whatever, something else. And the more they ate as a family, and the more there was this social link, this time to regulate, to learn how to socialize, to learn how to let the people speak, and all of that, how it was important in the way they handled their life later. So, I'm getting sidetracked, but I think when we talk about food, it's not only about, you know, obesity or all the health problems we have with the industrial food. It's also about keeping our culture. And I mean, there's this very famous sentence by Brevet Savarin: "We are what we eat," or "Tell me what you eat, I will tell you who you are." But I think it goes further than just the health, and it's really a matter of keeping the culture and who we are.
The thing that you can cook easily, I mean. Now, September is a great month because you have got the end of the summer and the start of the autumn. So we've got a lot of product. Tomatoes are better than in July. I mean, the main problem is that people do not cook every day, and so they don't know how to cook easily and also rapidly, because now cooking is it's like a loisir.
A pastime.
It's what?
A pastime.
No, I can cook. I just need to know, like, what's, you know, like, when will mushrooms come? What is the good things to buy?
It's a good thing now. I mean,
Everything almost.
now you can buy good tomatoes, but it depends on the product and also the seeds. You can buy mushroom, aubergine. Also, you've got the start of the courge, like a potimarron and other kind of thing. You've got, I mean, everything. It's the same problem. Is where you buy and how is it, and who produce.
There's a stand, just to answer this woman, I shop at the Marché de la Ligue, and there's a stand there that will actually hand you a list of things with the month when products are peaking.
Yeah.
So people who don't know this, there are books and you can find this out, that in every month certain products
Ça
are
varie un peu.
so
Ça varie d'une année à l'autre quand même, non?
Yeah.
Just, you have to be very careful too with the calendars, because you can have peaches, you know, peaches late July, but sometimes they don't come until September, or sometimes they're, you know, or it can vary from week to week. And things like mushrooms, when we want to do we want to serve Seps all week, if it doesn't rain in Auvergne 6 days ago, then we don't have mushrooms. Or the price changes also. So usually you can you can figure out what's in season by also watching the price go down. Asparagus at the beginning of the season are very expensive because they're rare, and then as you get further into the season, they get less expensive, and then the quality declines, and
It's to go back to the question you were asking. It's actually a good way to test the people you buy your products from. Is to ask them questions. You know, what's good right now, or how would you cook it? And that's also a way to spot the ones who really care about what they sell. Even if they are intermediates who bought from Rungis, they can have really the love of their product. And I think that's a good way to ask questions.
Sometimes they take me for like a stupid foreigner.
Then you change. You go somewhere else. It will depend from one country to another. In the States, there's a very famous job that Alice Waters did in Berkeley, and she's the vice president of Slow Food. In France, there are other examples. For instance, in Tours, where I go often for work, they created a vegetable garden in a school, and they try to. I mean, it's not only about the vegetable garden; it's also about they interweave the content of what the kids study. For instance, let's say math. The garden is 10 meters long, and you're supposed to have seeds every 2 centimeters. How many? I mean, you see what I mean. So that's the kind of projects that exist in different parts of France, for instance. And then usually when there's a slow food fair, there are workshops for kids. And for instance, 2 years ago in Tours, they were like their eyes were eaten, and they were told to try to recognize what they were tasting, and then we had them smell also and try to recognize just with the smell and this kind of things. Yeah, the problem is right now. The educational system in France does not necessarily integrate this as part of the education. So it's mostly individual initiatives from a head of a school or a teacher within a school that will contact and start this as a personal initiative, more than something very common.
But for us, at the beginning, we started to supply some school, but even if we put very low prices, with sometimes with no margins, the school didn't have the money. For instance, for the lentilles, petit épeautre, and all the basic stuff, they didn't have the money because they get only 1 or 2 euros to do a complete. So it's crazy. So sometimes you can have some salmon from China in the school, but it's cheaper than lentilles from France. But us, we are we are sellers. So when we started the adventure, we wanted to propose and to propose a product and the diversity. A lot of people, and we always think that if we want to change something, we have to make good price for the producer and also for the customer. So we always understood that we have few volume, so we need to have a lot of different products. For instance, we work with more than 70 producers now, and we have a lot. Not one producer with high volume, but few volume, and now we can. At the beginning, we always sell at a good price. Compared to some price in the ranges, I don't know if you can say after that. But for the consumer at the store, we are cheaper than some Biocoop, some Monoprix, some Raspail Market, because we think that if we want to change something, you cannot influence people to say you have to buy good food, but if you don't have a lot of money, it's impossible. So.